In thinking about what issues I felt like I wanted to address in today's speech, I was immediately inundated with thoughts concerning all kinds of issues that prevent a client from seeking care. I thought about it for a while, and during the process, I kept dwelling on the moments in my life where I felt I needed to attend counseling and why I didn't. That's why I've chosen each section of this speech with care. I wanted it to be a reflection of my own experiences, and I wanted my experiences to be strengthened by the research that I did. For my first point, I want to discuss the problem clients face when they come from rural communities. It's not easy for a person to admit they need help, and it's not made any easier when that help is almost inaccessible due to something as simple as geographic location. According to the article by Weinzimmer et al. In 2021, geographic location is not the only difference between rural and urban communities. There are societal contexts that make accessing care from a rural community harder. There is a higher level of income and housing insecurity coupled with a lower level of education attainment and employment opportunities. These disparities contribute to a significant increase in death due to depression and suicide in rural communities, as indicated by the research presented in that article. There are issues that would obviously be reduced by accessing counseling, but there are also factors that contribute to the blocking of that access, factors like time, money, and distance, that form an unholy trinity when it comes to preventing mental health care. People in rural communities face significantly larger time commitment trying to access specialized care, and there's a severe lack of competent counselors in their area. Growing up, I remember being driven in an hour. One counselor was accepted by my mom's insurance, and I remember how quickly it stopped when the travel time became a major strain on my mom's busy schedule. There's a strong correlation between the inaccessibility of health care in rural communities due to the distance and the increase those communities see in mortality rates due to societal contributions, as the research indicated. So how do we solve this? I want to highlight an emerging solution that can be implemented: telehealth. Now, we are all aware of telehealth due to the recent pandemic, but the research supports that telehealth counseling is an invaluable resource in providing access to care that otherwise was not there. It opens up opportunities for providers to expand their care networks and to reach those that were otherwise unable to. This creates the ability for specialized care to be accessed as well. Barriers to care can be as simple as the time it takes to travel the distance to receive it, and telehealth is a growing service that greatly reduces the time and distance for rural clients. For my second point, I would like to address the aspect of something that I encountered often as a young adult seeking care. Over and over, I found myself starting counseling with a counselor and never being able to work up the motivation to continue after a few sessions. Early termination was a problem for me, and it's a problem for people everywhere. Early termination can be defined as when a client decides to discontinue counseling before reaching the agreed-upon completion of treatment. When this happens, it's a lose-lose situation for both the client and the counselors. For the counselor, they must spend time and resources tracking down and sending referrals to the client, and potentially losing income and waste valuable time and resources, especially in community settings. For the client, it could lead to potentiality of them not seeking care in the future, leaving them alone with their issues that brought them to counseling in the first place. For something so damaging, why does 20% of counseling relationships terminate early? In a study seeking to address that question by Anderson et al. In 2017, it was found that the most common indicators for termination were a breakdown in the therapeutic alliance due to a lack of multicultural competence and a lack of progress demonstrated early on in treatment. The first element, multicultural competence, can be addressed by encouraging the further push for counselors to address their inherent biases and for education programs to encourage and in a way enforce a more strongly multicultural competent curriculum in their training programs. It is also important for counselors to hold their colleagues accountable for discriminatory behavior and challenge the profession's history of multicultural incompetency by recognizing the harm the profession has caused to minority groups in the past and actively taking strides to better the profession in the future. In addition, treatment planning should be considered an important tool in demonstrating progress. It's important to establish goals early in treatment progress and discuss with the client what it takes to meet those desired goals. Objectives need to be met and met often, and if they're not, the counselor should address that ineffectiveness and seek objectives that serve the client's needs more directly. These are just a few things that a counselor can prevent early termination due to the lack of competence. For my last point, I'd like to address one more barrier that every potential client faces by not having family support. Having a strong family support network is important in a lot of clients' care journeys, especially for the young, disabled, or elderly individuals who may rely on that family as a part of their care. Stigma can be a major barrier in families supporting their loved ones, as an article by Fahmy et al. Published in 2017 identifies that having a supportive family network greatly improves the chances of success in counseling. The article further explains how lack of health literacy in a family can impact the support of their loved ones attending care. To challenge this barrier, we can do two things. One is being to increase the outreach and psychoeducation of families who have loved one in our care, to eliminate misconceptions and give them the tools to challenge community stigma and empower them to become advocates for their loved ones rather than deterrents. The second is to include families in the collaborative treatment process of their loved ones when appropriate. I mentioned appropriate because often family can be the root cause in your client's issues, in which case the concepts of found families become important, as a counselor should assess for close relationships outside of the client's familiar unit. But nevertheless, when appropriately including families, a therapeutic benefit can help the client gain strength and support necessary to access care that they otherwise wouldn't have not. In today's speech, I've outlined 3 barriers to care and some potential solutions. For rural clients, we explored how the distance it takes to travel to common care and the cost associated with travel coupled with severe risk factors from living in a rural environment can prevent access to that care. Then we explored the problem of early termination and how to prevent that from happening. And then finally, we discussed how family support and lack thereof can be a barrier to care and how through educating and informing families, we can turn them from unsupportive to supportive, which would encourage their family member to attend care. All of these things are a barrier to my personal journey, and I hope by sharing these things with you today, you understand more about what can prevent a client from accessing care and have some solutions to maybe help tackle those barriers in the future career. Thank you for your time.